One is something called Plaud, Plaud, not to be confused with Claude, who is what I mentioned is who I kind of like a chat GPT. But
Mm.
Plaud is a listening device, and I don't have it in my office, but it's about the size of this mic that I'm wearing,
I
and
was
it can
wondering if you
pin
were
on.
wearing your plod, if one of the
No, I
devices
don't.
there.
No, he's listening. I have him on my desktop too, so he's
Okay.
he's on the desktop. But it looks like a little, just like a little microphone. Honestly, if you put it by your collar, you can't even see it. But and there's different versions, but the one I have is that. It's called the Plaud Pin, Pin. And it is first off, it's a listening device. It's listening to what's going on, but the powers behind it is an AI software it's transcribing what's being said in a conversation with you and your customer. This is the main thing. That's the most important piece. And then once you get back, you can pull it up on your phone, look at the transcript, and from there, it's going to just out of the box, it's going to break down a summary of what you and your client is going to put the names on and tell you JR said this, Kobe said this, and Jason said this. It's going to go through what was talked about. It's going to pull out measurements. It's going to pull out any kind of notes that you said, do room by room. It's very smart. And then it gives action items. Say, this is what you have to do next. This is what Kobe's got to do next. And then you can go a step further and you can go in there, just like with chat, people have built templates that said, okay, I'm in construction, I do project management. When I look at my recap, I want to see the amount of board feet, I want to see the amount of square feet on the walls, I want to see the total number of, stone countertops going in. I want to see all this stuff. There's different breakdowns of templates you can put your transcript into, and it gives it to you in that format. And so what you just did was talk about customer experience. You just took away this right here. You have no more pen and paper of you going, hang on just a second. Okay, go ahead. Hang on just a second.
Mm.
No, you're locked eyes with this customer the whole time going, got it. Yep, keep going. Yeah, so you want something with a view. Okay, cool. You don't want to miss the sunset over the 18th green out of your back porch. Got it. So this tree is kind of in the way. Got it. Like you're just taking it all in, right? You don't have to stop. When you're measuring, you're just calling out measurements. Now it's only as good as what you say. So you
Yep.
got to remember you're going to be the person reading this thing on the other side of it. So you got to be clear. Now we got a pretty heavy Southern dialect around here, and so we've had to learn that 80 might come out as eight, and so and whatever. And so some of the you still got to go back and read it, make sure you got it right. But so that's step one is if you only did that today, that's like 200 bucks,
Mm.
I think, for that is nothing. Go get it. And
I
that
think
makes
all
your,
our listeners can imagine like that estimate process and like imagine not having to take these notes and those little tiny details like, oh, I'm not going to forget we're going to get that tree trimmed up so you can see the 18th green when the sun sets. Like that is that
yeah,
next level experience.
yeah.
Do you tell or do the text tell the client like, hey, I got this thing on that's
Oh yeah, I
listening?
guess we should disclaimer that too. We're a one-party state in Mississippi, so only one person's got to consent to being recorded. I've consented, therefore it's fine. So I don't know. Check your state laws if you can even do this or not, how that is. But yeah, I tell them anyway because when I do a scope eval, like a bigger one, and all of our guys are the same way. We're going to talk to the client first, then we're going to go back and do our own walkthrough. We tell them, hey, you're going to hear me talk to myself. You may hear me repeat some things to you, but I've got a device on that's making sure I don't miss anything because I don't want to come back and waste your day again. So if you hear me talking, I'm not crazy. It's my pen listening in. And so nobody's ever told us no. They actually love that because the
Hmm.
other piece is there's a cover your booty component to this, right? Where if well, wait a minute, Brian said that y'all were going to do this. I'm like, well, no, he didn't. I'm looking at the transcript, and this is exactly what was said. Or like on the big remodel scopes, because that's about all that I even go to these days. I don't go to a ton of evals anymore, but I may go do a remodel walkthrough and there's a lot of detail being covered. And so I can take that whole transcript and just drop it in the notes of Jobber. And if somebody's trying to figure out on site what was the expectation for this vanity, or whatever we were doing, they can go back and read the transcript too. So
That
that's
was that was where my mind went. As soon as you started talking about this, all I can think of all the times where I'd have a client that'd be like, "Well, I thought you guys were gonna do this. We talked about this." I'm like, I don't remember us talking about it. It's not in the quote or the contract, and that would
yeah.
be some good. I don't want to say ammunition, but just like you said, covering your butt there.
Yeah. Even if you decide to do the work anyway, you can go, hey, look, it's not in here, but I hear you. Like maybe I said something incorrectly. I get it. Things happen. You can at least let them know it doesn't say it here.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to handle, client stuff kind of in general, I think, is like, hey, it wasn't included, we didn't bill you for it. We're gonna do it for you anyways, as a favor. But
Yeah.
it wasn't in there. Help build some of that goodwill.
Yeah. And so the second piece of this, though, and this goes back to what you said a second ago, Jason, we're identifying problems and then putting something on the problem. And so we're big on how fast we get the quotes out. And so the handyman quotes for the most part should be done on site. We shouldn't leave the driveway without sending that quote unless we're needing to get a price on
Love
special
that.
material
Mhm.
or something. And on the remodel side, even then, I kind of argue that things shouldn't really hang over past a day. Like if we've got
Cool.
all of our ducks in a row on pricing, we've walked enough of these, especially if we're just in the early phase of, hey, your budget was 50,000. Let me see if we can even, let's just see if that's even a thing. Let me see if we can get there. If I'm just trying to rough a budget, I don't really need that long. It just takes a second. But the hardest part of any, whether it's handyman, but especially remodel, when I got to digging into why are the quotes taking too long, the big part is when there's a long list of things to think about, if it's an inspection punch list, it's got 35 items on it. The brain, I don't care who you are, the brain just starts to scramble thinking about all these things that it's
Mm.
got to do. And it's hard to get it started in the right direction. Well, if you've got a remodel and you need 65 joist hangers and you got a factory, you got to figure all that stuff in, right? You're trying to figure out your spans and all those things. Well, if we could shortcut that, if we could shortcut that piece of it, what you had to think about, what I would call the first level thinking, if you get rid of that and become a decision maker on what needs to be done, then you could speed that up. And so the second phase of this is taking the Claude transcript, and then I built a bot inside of Chat GPT, so a chat bot, and it's got 6 or 7 thousand words of instruction built into it now. We just kind of kept crafting. But its job is to take that transcript, I immediately take it and drop it into chat, into the bot, and he starts going through there and building out a remodel scope based on how we've told him we
Mm.
want to see it. So it goes from client summary to all the components that we need, goes to a materials list. And then if it can be bought at a local big box store, it starts pulling part numbers next to it and putting those there for us to make a whole list we can order from. Um, it goes into and gives a how to do the job from a trade standpoint. So demo, plumbing, electrical, the rough ends, the framing, the finish work. It goes step by step. And then it goes to things to look out for. So if it picks up, and we put pictures in there too sometimes, but it may say, hey, parking was tight. Be careful of the crepe myrtle on the right hand side of the driveway. It says things like that. And then the coolest part is it says things you didn't talk about but may want to consider. And so it's like, hey, you were working on the so and so wall. If you touch the door facing, you may end up damaging the one around the corner. So whatever, possible upsells, right,
Mm.
is another way to say that. And then it's a whole list of the stuff that you don't know yet that you have to know before you can do the job. Things like
Mm.
how many lights specifically are going in, what's the paint color, all the stuff you don't know. And so it takes away all that stuff that you're having to think about as the contractor. Right
Mhm.
now, you don't make that the scope, but now you get to be the decision maker. You get to be the licensed guy that goes, yep, that's right, that's wrong, that's right, that's wrong.